Well, that plane has landed, Tom, the first one from Melbourne, and as you can imagine, there were plenty of tears and cheers as those passengers came through the gates. There'll be around 9,000 travellers coming in today from the Greater New South Wales areas and from Victoria. Very jubilant scenes, particularly poignant here at the gate where the Melbourne arrivals came in. Of course, Victorians have been effectively locked out of Queensland for much longer than the other states. There were quite a couple of sets of grandparents meeting their grandbabies for the first time. Certainly some big hugs and kisses all around as those arrivals were greeted.
Just over the moon, ecstatic. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it, Steph?
It has. They just met their granddaughter for the first time, so she's 3 months old and we've been down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So first meeting with the grandparents.
Yeah.
I'm 19, I've been living in Melbourne since before I became an adult, so it's good to see your mum.
Yeah. Did you think you'd see this moment this year?
No.
299 days.
And how's that 299 days felt?
Long.
And how's you feeling now?
Much better. Happy. Relieved.
Well, I'm feeling really, really good. I get to go and see my grandson, born on the 27th of March.
For the first time?
For the first time.
Good to put this in the bin.
How are you feeling?
Very good. Good to be in Queensland.
Now, that was the first Melbourne flight. We are expecting around 7 more of those to come in today. There's over 20 flights coming in from the Greater Sydney area. Of course, some parts of New South Wales were able to cross over into Queensland without quarantining, but there were still some 32 local government areas that were still couldn't come into Queensland. So there were also some emotional scenes and relief too from Sydney-siders who flew into Brisbane today.
I've seen my mother in almost a year, so she's actually sick, and it's the reason why I'm going up there today. So today's the first chance, first flight into Queensland.
It's been really hard. It's just one of those things. But people are in a lot worse boat than we are, so we've still got our job.
Finally feeling like we're opening up again, which is feeling fantastic.
I only flew down on Saturday, and luckily the borders are open so I can go back to work.
So certainly this is the most hustle and bustle that Brisbane Airport has experienced for quite a number of months now. It also does mean a return to work for some 1,200 staff who had been stood down or asked not to work just because the need just wasn't there. The airport has reported a massive surge in bookings. Some 100,000 flights now have been booked from the 2 states, Victoria and New South Wales, to travel into Queensland in the lead up to the festive period, with the Brisbane Airport CEO welcoming the surge in bookings.
We're going up from 5 flights to Sydney yesterday to actually 17 today and 26 next week, and 2 from Melbourne yesterday, today 9, and that's going up to 20. So 5-fold increase to Sydney, a 10-fold increase to Melbourne. And that means that on average we had about 12,500 passengers daily. That goes up to 25 to 30,000, so it feels really good.
So we are standing by here at Brisbane Airport for a few more of those domestic arrivals, for a few more of those planes from Sydney and Melbourne to come in. So certainly some more heartwarming reunions on the way today.
No doubt, Anna. Thank you. Danica Georgiou is at Sydney Airport for us. Danica, not just about the arrivals, but hundreds there heading to Queensland.
Oh, and I can tell you, Tom, they've been so excited all day. In fact, we just saw a flight take off to the Sunshine Coast, and this plane next to me here, that's about to head to Brisbane. And we've seen hundreds of people absolutely excited, ready to go. It has been 250 very long days in the making, and since that border has been closed, for the most part, it has been closed to Greater Sydney. So we have seen so many reunions this morning here at Sydney Airport as well. But what was really heartwarming was we saw a band play. It was playing We Are Australian, and that really, I guess, really set the tone for the arrivals today. They were also greeted with some pineapple juice, which I thought was very fitting for a number of those Queenslanders coming here. I spoke to several people as they were about to board a flight today.
So excited, we've been waiting so long.
Big love, Queensland. I haven't seen him this year only once. I've seen him only once, and I'm so excited. And he is graduating from medicine, so I'm so excited. Yes.
I thought I was going to get stuck down here, but I'm so happy I can actually get home now.
Oh, I'm so excited. I just can't wait to get there. And what we really have seen over the last couple of months is a deterioration in relations between the New South Wales and Queensland Premier. You might recall those very public text messages where Gladys Berejiklian congratulated Anastasia Palaszczuk on her re-election, and it took some time before she got a response, and the response from Premier Palaszczuk was simply Queensland. So it certainly has been interesting to see how that relationship has unfolded in recent months. But Tom, really none of that matters here at the airport today. People are just so excited to be reunited ahead of Christmas.
Yeah, of course, the Queensland Premier waiting until the end of the Origin match to throw that back. So there you go, Danica, thank you. Meanwhile, the excitement is carried across to the roads as drivers queue up to enter the Sunshine State. Julia Bradley is at the border with New South Wales as barricades are dismantled there for the first time in more than 8 months.
Families are being reunited and there's finally relief for struggling businesses as the Sunshine State reopens to nearly half the country's population. From midnight, the first arrivals from Greater Sydney and Victoria will wave through the Coolangatta Tweed Heads checkpoint without having to quarantine.
As soon as they said the borders are open, I just cried.
Very excited. I sort of think I'll be in a bit of shock too, you know, that I'm finally here.
It was very difficult. And, yeah, we feel like we've earned the right to come now.
As authorities began dismantling border barricades which have been in place for 250 days.
From 7 p.m. Queenslander time this evening, we will see the northbound lanes of the M1 shut, and they will shut overnight. Traffic will be diverted over onto the Gold Coast Highway and then across to Stewart Road. And by about 6 a.m. our time, all of that concrete barricading should be removed. It's a bit of a complex and a little bit of a hazardous operation, and we just want to make sure, we've been here 250 days, we want to make sure that no one's hurt and there isn't any undue delay, but it is necessary.
Since March, 5.5 million people have applied for border passes to travel into Queensland. 21,000 people have been turned away.
These border controls have saved lives, they've kept COVID out of Queensland, and it's put us in a position where we can reopen and get our economy back on track. So this is great news for Queensland and great news for Australia.
It's a welcome relief for residents in bordered towns who can once again call themselves one community.
If we look at our employment this time last year, or September last year, and compare it to September this year, there's 1,300 jobs that have been lost in the hospitality and food industry, and about roughly 200 in the arts and recreation. So we have had huge impacts just being on that border area.
Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk has kept the border closed to Adelaide. The border ban will be reviewed next week.